everybody, and welcome to Perspectives, the home edition. That's what you do when you're in the middle of a pandemic. Everybody works from a remote site. And we're glad you could join us today. We got some interesting things to pass along. First of all, our first guest today is Bracken Klar. Bracken, are you with us, buddy?
I sure am.
Good to have you.
Good to
How's
be here.
life in
Thanks
the
for having
fast lane?
me. Tired,
I
overworked,
understand
underpaid.
you're with an organization called the Tri-City Collective. What is that?
So the Tri-City Collective is it's a collective of people that we aim to promote arts, education, cultural dialogues, give voice to often voiceless and marginalized communities through the means I've just named: art, political discourse, discussions, panel discussions, etc. And the three cities are Tulsa, Oklahoma City, and Chicago. And we've got uh, people, a diverse range of group members that most of us are actually are or are former educators, but also people from all sorts of disciplines and art and otherwise.
Help me understand, because I'm a little hazy on the perimeter of this. How do you different from the classroom?
So, Tri City Collective, we partner with a lot of people to deliver different things. One of our projects is Focus Black Oklahoma. It's a monthly radio show on KOSU and now also on KWGS that airs on Sundays.
Hmm.
Third Sundays of the month. So that's one of our projects. Another is we're working with Gilcrease on the Eddie Faye Gates collection to sort of bring that to life, to make it usable and discoverable by people, including students. A lot of it hasn't been digitized or cataloged, so we're working with them on that. We work with Philbrook Museum in Tulsa on their, this is our second collaboration with them, the From the Limitations of Now exhibit that's up currently. Our first one was Memories and Inspirations. We're working with obviously Philbrook and Gilcrease and AHA. We're providing, with AHA, we're collaborating on providing tours of historic Greenwood
Hmm.
here in Tulsa. We've done some events here and there. We also work with the Woody Guthrie Center and Folk Alliance International on Real Talk, which is a panel discussion that happens once a month. And the aim there is to give voice to often voiceless communities. So we've discussed everything from sort of intersectional identity between African American and queer identities. We've discussed women in leadership, all sorts of different things. Native American Thanksgiving, how national Thanksgiving in Canada is practiced as the National Day of Mourning, and it's sort of a way to observe the history of Native Americans and um, European settlers, and I guess give weight to the events that occurred in the history between those two people. So I guess our sort of overarching goal is just to provide access and platform to a diverse group of people that are typically not provided such platforms and access. If that makes
Uh,
sense.
yeah, it does make sense, but let me hone this in just a little more. Uh, Typically, we're not talking about geography, math, uh, that sort of thing. We probably are looking toward explaining what you need to be prepared for when you start your job search, or if you want to pursue a higher role in education, and offering that up as food for thought, and giving that young person and or student a sense of direction. Am I reading that correctly?
You're not wrong. Um, when dealing with students or people in general, our basic sort of way to approach things is, rather than being a sage on a stage, rather than using that sort of pedagogy where we're the ones with knowledge and we're gatekeeping or we're dispensing that out, we invite, learners, be that like a person who's at the Philbrick Museum, or a person who attends a panel, or a person who looks at a piece of art or poetry we've done, whatever it might be, even political discourse. And we ask that person to engage with it, on a personal level, engage with us, the work, whatever it is. So sort of like we aim to, engage and develop lifelong learner skills with people, engage people in their curiosity, and encourage that curiosity, sort of like a metacognitive mission, I guess, sort of like getting people to think about how they think and why they think that way. Have learners learn how they learn best. So sort of reflecting on the process one goes through as one it engages new art, new people, new political ideas, how one sort of digests this sort of new stuff, and hopefully that makes a person, more curious, more of a lifelong learner, or develops those sort of metacognitive muscles, those empathetic muscles as well.
You
So
know, I didn't mean to interrupt, but if I don't get this out at my age, I'll forget it. Uh, Many years ago, there was a guy named Edward R. Murrow who sort of set the standard, and it was a gold standard, if you will, for electronic journalism. And he made the remark, and all of a sudden it caught on because a lot of folks understood exactly what he was talking about. And to paraphrase it was, he said, if we don't take this animal television for all it's worth and utilize its full potential, it's just a box with wires. And you know what's interesting is just prior to the pandemic, it was becoming just that, a box with wires. All of a sudden, because folks were forced to kind of withdraw from society, if you will, we've seen a shift in the paradigm of broadcasting through television to enhance education, to enhance curiosity, and to bring more folk into the fold. And of course, the internet's right there running along beside. And a lot of folks thought it was going to be a redheaded stepchild. In some cases, it is for extremism, but it's also providing outlets and a way to search out more facts and figures. I mean, you guys have hit the button in terms of timing. You formed what, in 2016?
that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you must be seeing incredible growth.
Yes, the amount of projects we're engaged in at one time continues to blow up despite our despite our best intents. Um, but you're right in that, you know, on their own, things like the internet, television, cell phones, facts, figures, a piece of art, a piece of poetry, whatever it is, a painting, is just a thing. Without the tools to engage with it, it's just a thing.
Mhm.
And even still, like I don't mean to sort of make a hard equation between the two, but a cell phone is still just a tool. But if we use those tools in the right way, like we can unlock all sorts of different potentials and different worlds. And the
Yeah.
same thing with facts and facts and art. If we use that as a tool to help us, it can further our education, our emotional education, our intellectual education, our cultural literacy, our cultural competencies. It can help us understand across difference as well as speak across difference as well. So I mean, it's like the Mark Twain quote about travel. You can't travel widely and remain a racist or a bigot. You can't experience or look at art or knowledge or the successes and excellence of different cultures and remain a bigot or a racist. And that's sort of I like what you had said. And I just wanted to sort of speak to that for a minute. As far as us being busy, yes, like with the centennial coming up, we're working with all kinds of different organizations. The Tulsa Race Massacre Centennial, working with all kinds of organizations trying to do some programming, panel discussions, art expression, Fire in Little Africa. Get some publicity for that, and some of the MCs out in public. But yeah, we've got a lot going on, and it's steadily gotten busier as we've progressed since our very humble beginnings.
And what's amazing, we're seeing your organization offer this up to young people and young adults at a time when it's desperately needed, because they've got all these tools at their disposal and they're going, wait a minute, how can I best employ this?
That's what we have found, is that a lot of young people, when asked, and the data and the research is there to back up sort of my experiences. And I used to be a practicing librarian. I'm still a librarian. I'm just not a practicing librarian. So I know from research and all that. But the research is there to suggest, or that tells us that young people are not succeeding with their engagement of learning across distance, with distance learning or virtual learning. But when we have, what we have found is that when we engage, or when one engages students in a more targeted or a more select way, when one asks the student to be the driver of their learning, when one gives the student agency and voice, when one asks the student to participate and be a teacher of their own learning, a driver of their own, arc of learning, they engage. They engage intimately,
And quickly.
dedicated, and
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. The rough part is you have to front load the relationship building, right? You have to
yeah.
build that environment of trust, that environment where failure is only a failure if you do it over and over.
And if you
If you
accept
fail
it.
forward, yes,
Bracken,
yes,
we're quickly running out of time. In fact, I've got less than 30 seconds. If there are folk out there who would like to become a part of this, who would like to help, who would like to share their knowledge, how do they go about that?
we would love to have more people. And you can find us on the internet at tricitycollective.com, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Tri-City Collective, Oklahoma. Um, yeah, that's we'd love to have people, and that's the way to do it, all over the interwebs, or the inner tubes, as it were.
Well, Bracken Klar, thank you so much, my friend. Let's do this again down the road. All right?
You bet. Thank you very much. It's been great.
Thank you, friend. Short break. We'll be back with more right after this.